Let me introduce you very quickly before you start, okay? All right, welcome everyone to this session of JoomlaDay USA. My name is Olivier Buizat, and I am right now in my office in Brookings. Well, it's been for the last 2 days. And you may have heard of me through jQuery Easy, which is a plugin I've been creating. For today's session, the team at JoomlaDay USA would like to thank you, our sponsor, Watchful, which is a company that's been helping digital agencies to manage websites. It's a great service. Feel free today to download and open an account, not download, but open an account at watchful.net today. A bit of housekeeping before we start with Eoin. Remember, you can visit the expo hall, meet the sponsors, see what they have in their booth. Sometimes you can even meet them personally. So please go for it. Networking, same thing. Please go meet people. I mean, I've met some interesting people that I would never have met otherwise. So please go there. For the questions, put the questions in a Q&A. I will see if I can stop Eoin with the questions, or if we wait until the end of the session. Do not request to come on the stage. The session doesn't allow people on stage other than Eoin and myself. And we will stop after 60 minutes. I'm sorry, the software is done so that it will cut us off if we go over. So I prefer not to have a session like that where it's cut off. So Eoin has been running his web development firm for the last 10 years, like I did, pretty much. Focusing exclusively on Joomla. He's an active member of Joomla London user group. He enjoys the challenge of learning new things, and when he does, he enjoys passing that knowledge on. Eoin firmly believes that Joomla can be a stronger CMS if everyone in the community helps someone lower down to jump up a few steps. So that's why he's a volunteer, and he likes to talk to events. Today, Eoin is going to show us how to build a Joomla template from scratch without the need of a bloated framework, and I love that. The results are amazing. I don't know if you saw the resulting examples on the website yet, but it's wonderful. So, Eoin, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Olivier. Hello, everybody. I can't see you guys, so bear with me, and just chuck a question in the chat, and Olivier can interrupt me. So today the topic is build your own Joomla template, as he said. I don't need to introduce myself. This is my influencer photo, so if you want to follow me and enjoy my hilarious Instagram posts, please do. I'll skip on from that, and I'll tell you what we're covering today. So I'm going to cover a step-by-step guide on how to create a totally bespoke Joomla core template. And I won't be covering things like CSS, because I expect that you either know that if you're going to do this, or you will go away and Google it and come up with your own designs, or perhaps get templates from online. I'm not going to teach you how to suck an egg, but I will teach you how to utilize the SCSS, without teaching you the actual, code, and how to get the menu working, which can be a complicated part, which I'm going to make easier for you by using an add-on. And obviously, there's some PHP involved. You don't need to know PHP to join in this topic. I'll teach you everything you need to know, and also the code is on GitHub, which I'll show you the link in a minute. So as I said, I won't really be teaching you most of the stuff, but you can see the template we're building is on the side here. So that's one of the pages, and by the end of it, you will have the full code to build this. You won't have the images because you have to buy them if you want them, but you'll have the CSS and SCSS, so you'll be able to release the same website with your own images on it. So I guess I was going to say let's run a poll, Olivier. Can you help me with that to see? Oh, I can do this, can I? I just want to know how experienced people are. Do you know, in fact, instead of running a poll, maybe I can just ask you guys to say it in the chat, which would be easier. And Olivier, you could just maybe, in fact, I'll watch it for a while. I just want to know, have you guys ever built a component or module or plugin or template or anything before? So just yes or no is fine. Okay, yeah, perfect. Well, Tom, I'm glad you're here, but I don't know if I'll teach you anything. Great. So the guys who've built anything before will understand the basis of this, which is going to be an XML file which generates things in Joomla, obviously. And the guys who haven't, no problems. We're going to go through it from scratch from like beginner level, so you don't need to worry. You'll be able to learn everything you need to know. So I'll cover it from scratch. So all of the stuff is going to be available on GitHub. So maybe if I can show you the link, maybe. Is there a way I can put this in the chat, maybe? There you go. So what I'm going to do first of all is just show you how to use the GitHub. So I've organized it into steps. So each step is a branch. So if you don't understand GitHub, all you need to know is click on this link, the drop down, and then you change to step 1, and you will have the very first step. So that's kind of the way I'm going to go through it and build it up step by step. And if you want any help, it's the same link, and there's a discussions tab. So please, if you guys get stuck, come on the discussion on GitHub, put your questions in there. I'll try to help you. Hopefully you guys can join in, and as a community, we can help each other as well. So first step, I'm going to delve straight into the code really. And I'm using PHP Storm, but you can use any code editor. So here I am. And first thing you need to know really, am I on step 1? Yeah, I'm on step 1. So first thing you need to know really is the file structure. Is this step 1?
Oh, Owen,
Yes.
I don't know if you may be able to go in the view of your editor so that we can see the code a little more clearly, because it's very small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sure thing. Let me just try to change the step for a second.
Thanks a lot.
Something is going on. It won't let me close down the modules PHP file. Cool. So look, let me make it bigger. See if there you go. That should probably be okay. Is that okay? Is it okay? Can you see this, guys? Oh, hold on. Guys, you see this or?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So, so first thing to do is, let me just. Sorry, guys, it's not changing. It's not changing to the right place. Let me just open it again and see if it'll change. But the main thing really at the beginning is getting the file structure correct. Here we go, perfect. So the main thing is to get the file structure correct. So you're going to realize that you need a template and then capital D, template details XML. Oh, you can't see that. Where's my OBS gone? Here you go. Right, so template details XML. You need the thumbnail PNG, a template preview PNG. I've made a README just for you guys. You don't need that. You need an offline PHP. You need index PHP, error PHP, and component PHP. So it probably feels like you need quite a lot of. Sorry, I've got some folders as well. I've got a languages one as well. And inside languages, I've got ENGP, which is English language. Well, English, and 2 files there for the language streams. And that is the primary basis of the template. Once you have those files in place, you pretty much have an installable template. So I'm going to start with the template details XML. So it's template and then capital D for details. XML, if you haven't been with XML before, it's always in this structure where you have opening brackets and then a word and then a closing slash with the same word, and it always has the pair. So files has files. XML is up the top here and it doesn't need one because it's closed, but extensions needs one down the bottom. You don't really need to understand what it means because XML doesn't mean anything deliberately. It just has a pair and some content within it. and it's up to the the parser to sort of decide what it means afterwards. So we always start with extension. This time we're saying type is template. This could be module or component, but we're building a template, so obviously template. This version is the Joomla version. So if I want it to be version 4 compatible, I need to change this, or I might change it to 3.9 if I don't want it to be installed on older versions. Client can be site or admin. So this template will be a front-end template. So it's site. If it's an administrator template, it would be admin. And method should always be upgrade, in my opinion. The other option would be install, but upgrade means that you can upgrade it when you install it on top. So the name is just the name of the template. Now, as I went through this template, I changed the name of it. So this is a really, really long name, and it becomes a bit stupid when you install it because that becomes like the folder name and stuff like that. So I changed it to just be JoomlaDay USA. So you might see a step, I don't know, whatever step it is, it changes to be shorter. Version 1.0, that is related to the template. So if you upgrade the template, you might add a version number. Creation date is exactly what it is, created on this date. Author is whoever you are. Your email, in case somebody needs to contact you about your template. Copyright, if you want to put it in. The description, I've actually got Joomla London in there, so that's wrong. We should have had the JoomlaDay USA. But that is just an XML description, which comes from your language file. And then we come to files. So the top bit is pretty self-explanatory. It's all just stuff for you to fill in yourself. And whenever you make a template, you'll have to go through that pane again, but you hopefully can copy and paste it in your new templates. The files will normally be a bit different. And this is what tells Joomla, go away and look for these files because you install it in a zip file. And it says, go away and find these files within the zip file. And if you don't find them, come back with an error saying I couldn't find it. So the first thing we do is add the component, error, offline, index, template details, and then the 2 images. And then we're saying a folder with languages. And when we do that, Joomla will look inside that folder and pick up all of the files within that folder. So all of the files here should also be here. If they're not here, Joomla will not install them, even if they're contained in the zip. And if they are here and not in the zip, then Joomla will have an error saying it can't find the file. So next part is positions. So whenever you see Joomla in the back end, so let me just go back to my I'll go back to my browser and let me just check my OBS and make sure. So I'll have to shrink it again. So first things first, I will show you the thing we're going to build. It probably makes a bit more sense if I show you it. So this is template we're going to build. I don't know if it looks funny. It looks a bit funny in my OBS, but it's kind of simple. Nothing too exciting about it really, but it's all built with a really small framework. So you don't need it to be more complicated than that. Second thing I was going to show you is positions. So if you go into your Joomla backend and you're looking for positions over here in the right hand side, these are the positions that we are now assigning in the template. So the only way Joomla knows about these is from this XML file. So I go back to the XML file and make it bigger again. Okay, so here I am with my positions, and every time I add them in here, it would mean that Joomla can find them in the place I just showed you. So you can add as many as you want, or as little as you want. Next thing is languages, and in this case, I'm just telling it, go and look for some languages files, and within the languages file, it will be within this folder, obviously. I've told it what folder to find it in. And then I've told them there's 2 files. There will always be an ini and a sys.ini. Sys.ini is the one that works when you're installing stuff. Normally it only has a little few things in it. In this case, only one thing. It could do with a bit more. So I'll just show you that. And then you have the other one, which is normally a bit more. So anything outside of the installation, you would include in this file. At the moment, it's nothing exciting. It's just a description. But at least you can understand what it does. And then the last thing is config. And then within config, I have fields and I have params. And I have a field set called advanced. And then I have one field, which is called site description, and it's a text field. So just to show you what that does, if I go back to my Joomla. In fact, I'll have to shrink it again. Should have prepared a bit better with this. So if I now go to my templates, have I got this open? There. So this is the templates description. So if I just show you how I get here, I go to extensions and templates, and then when I click onto my template, you will see that I've got nothing in here, just the description, which is not working very well, and the advanced bit, which is just a text box called description. So if I go back to my code and show you how that is coming from, and it's coming from, it's just coming from this params, and you can see it's a text box, and you can see it's in the advanced field set. And if we look in the browser, you can see it's in the advanced tab. Oh, there you go. It's in the advanced tab, and that comes from that XML calling it the advanced one. So let's go on with the code. So now that that's filled out, that's pretty much all we need for the beginning. So I will close that. The next most important file is the index.php file. So all I do at the beginning is I do defined JExec or die, and that is something you should have at the beginning of every PHP file in Joomla. It basically checks if you have authorization to access it, or just white screens it basically. The next thing I have is to use Joomla Cms Factory. This is a new Joomla 4 way of doing things. It's called namespacing, and you don't really need to understand it fully. You just need to copy that, and then it's going to use this part of the Joomla internal API, which is the factory. So you can see I've used it here. I've got a variable called app, and I've said to the factory, get the application. For the variable called doc, I've said to the factory, get the document. For user, I've said to the factory, get the user. And then I've got the language and the language direction. And the language direction means either right to left or left to right. Next thing I do is output it as HTML5 because it's 2021, so that's the sort of thing we would do. So all I've done is got the document, which I've set the variable here, factory get document, and then it's set to HTML5 true. The next thing I do is I get the params. So the params is saying app, which is up here, the application, get the template, which means get this particular template, and then it's getting params. So where it's getting the params from is our XML file, and we have set field name params. So you can see here, that's why it's called params. So go back to the code. So yeah, I got my params. So if I enter in the advanced parameter that you saw with the site description, if I save it, it will come out in this params field now, variable, sorry. Now I just need to, this is quite a common thing. So you get the options, the view, the layout, the task, and item ID. I'm not going to go into great detail explaining those, but it's basically how Joomla works out what you want it to do, and it's kind of based on the URL and the router. I'm not going to go into great detail about that because we don't really have time, but if you have questions, you can ask me at the end. Oh, here's a mistake. So that should just be factory. So if you see anywhere where I've got J factory or something like that, that's the Joomla 3 way of doing it. And we're now using factory, and because we have declared to use factory here and namespaced it, we can use it without the J. So moving down, we'll just get to some HTML. Pretty simple, doc type HTML. We've set the language based on the variable that we had earlier on. You can just see up the top there, the language and the direction. We set right to left or left to right. In the head, which is where you normally find all of your CSS and JavaScript and stuff like that. So we just use this JDoc :include type head, and that will know that Joomla can go away and find everything that's in the header. And I'll talk to you a little more later about how to add something to that header. But at the moment, all you need to know is that. And now we have a body tag, and it might look a bit unusual, but the body tag actually ends down here with the closing tag. And in between that, I'm adding a class, and I'm adding all of these options, view, and everything like that to the class. So that if you ever want to style anything, you have that ability based on the class. And then all I've really done is a div with just some div written in it, just so we can see an output. and then I close my body and I close my HTML. I'm not going to cover offline just yet. So at the moment, you can just do defined JExec or die, and it's the same with error. You can do the same thing, just so that nobody has access to the site through those ways, those files. And then in my language strings, they're both the same. They have a description in there, and that's all we need for now. And then the preview PNG and the thumbnail PNG, what I advise you to do is either take the ones from my GitHub repository or from any Joomla template that you find, and I'll just show you where they arrive on Joomla. Let me just make my screen right size again. Okay, so when you're in Joomla, you will go to templates, and then you click on the second option, templates, and here is the preview, and when you click on it, and it gets larger. So those are what those two files are doing. They're just for that purpose. If you didn't change them, it wouldn't break the site, but it is good practice to change them. So those are all the files you need. So at this point, you should be able to install your template into Joomla. It should work without any errors. Now, it's nothing to show. There's nothing pretty about it. You haven't done any styling, and you haven't assigned anything. All it really is going to say is just some div. But basically, it's good practice to get to this stage, do it, and make sure there are no errors when you install it. I'll move on to step 2. So I'll do that. And if you're following along in the code and you're on the GitHub, you need to make sure you change main and then go down to step 2. So now you'll be on the same place as me. So in step 2, if you look in the README, you will see step 2, I'm adding the component. This is not a very long step, but if I'm in index.php, I've decided to add the component here. So all you need to understand about this is that when Joomla is talking about a component, it means any menu item is the way I think of it. But articles is a component called com-content. Categories is a component called com-category. You may have a component installed. You might have installed, I don't know, J2 Store or Virtumart or one of the e-commerce components. It doesn't really matter what they are, but this doesn't mean any of them specifically. It just means a component, whatever it may be. So when you are in, if I show you the menu items, this is article single item menu item. So that would be a com-content component. So when you go onto the site, you will have that component when you've done this. So all you need to know is that sometimes you may not need a component on the page. Sometimes you may just use modules, in which case you don't need to include that. So moving on to step 3. So here comes the fun part. I'm going to add some JavaScript and some CSS. So I'm opening my index.php. First thing I need to do is add this use Joomla Cms HTML helper. And again, that's just namespacing. So once I've added that, it means I'm able to use that, and I don't need to use the JHTML anymore. So I've commented this quite well in this stage, step 3, but I removed all these comments for neatness in the other steps. So if you don't understand this, here's an explanation quickly. HTML helper is here, and that's what we're going to use to add a style sheet. So I'm telling it it's a style sheet. My other option, I could be adding a script. So below, I don't use any JavaScript on this template, but I've given you an example of how to add JavaScript. So I'm using a style sheet, and I've used pure CSS, which is like a CSS grid system really, but it's only 5 kilobytes, so it's really, really small. And in this case, I haven't taken the 5 kilobyte version. I've taken a smaller version, which just has the grids only. It doesn't do any other styling of buttons or anything like that. So you can see that the first thing is for a file. So I've given it the file here. The next thing is the options, and the third thing is attributes. So the next one is options here, and I've kind of got an array of options. So if I just move it across, you can see. So all I've done is version auto. I've put it in the square bracket because I've got an array, and then I do a comma, relative equals true, and then a comma, cross origin equals anonymous, and I close my brackets. And if you remember at the beginning, the third option we could have had would be attributes, but we haven't actually added any attributes in this case. So I'll scroll down, and you can see that there's nothing else that I've done in this template, or in this step, sorry. This is purely a simple step to add the style sheet, and I've added it from an external CDN, so I haven't added it to my files anywhere. Move to step 4. Okay, so step 4 is adding module positions. So if you remember at the beginning, we added our module positions in our XML file, but they added them to the Joomla so we could look in the modules to see what module positions were available, but they didn't do anything else. So now we have to add them to our index PHP. So in this case, I have gone and set a variable of each module position. And what I've done is this count modules with a capital M for modules, debug. And I've done that over and over again. And all that is doing is saying, for example, go to my hero section and count how many modules are in there. Is there 1? Is there 10? If there's 10, it's going to render 10 modules, right? It's not just going to give us the first one. It's going to give us all of them. So I've done that. And at the moment, I still haven't added them to my HTML. So that will be in the next step. So first of all, we add some HTML structure. So at this point, I finally started fleshing out my HTML. I've added a section. We've called it ID of navigation, remembering that your ID should be unique. So you shouldn't, like a class could be multiple, but in this case, it should be unique. So my section has a unique ID on it, which is great when you want to style things with CSS. Pure G, which is the row class for this pure CSS that I have used for my grid system. And then pure U11, which means that's your column class. And in this particular case, it means 1 column. But if you look down here, this is 1 of 5 and 4 of 5. So you can see that the first one will be smaller and the second one will be quite a lot larger. So 20% and 80%. So at the moment, I still haven't added in. I've just added some text. But you can see I'm starting to build out my grids. So I'll move on to the next one, which is adding the modules. Okay, so now I've started saying if navigation. So I go back up here and I can see, there you go. So I'm saying if a navigation variable. So basically, if it exists, if it's not empty, basically. So if it does, then I'm going to output the HTML. If I hadn't done the if statement, it would output the HTML. And if there were no modules, it would just make a lot of sections and divs and stuff like that. And there's nothing inside of it. So it's just taking up space on your page with emptiness. So that's why I've done my if statement to find out, is there something in it? And if there is, then we can render the HTML. And at the moment, all I'm doing is this JDoc, which is the most important part, which is open bracket JDoc : include, and then the type equals modules, and the name equals navigation. So the name has to match my module position, which is in my XML. And it's also up here in my PHP. So I've done my count modules there. So we'll always make sure they always match, so it's good practice. But this is coming from the XML, really. So I'll move on to my next step. Oh, and I'll just show you here. I've got my below hero. Yep, and I've got 2 columns there. And I suddenly came into an issue with I want to render everything from the below hero module position, but I want them to be in different column widths. So how do I handle that? Because I can't, it's rendering all of the modules, right? It's not telling me do the first one this and the second one that. So how do we handle that? We're on to step, let me check what step we're on. Apologies, I haven't used my sliders at all. So yeah, at this stage, I created modules in the back end of Joomla. So if you have installed this and you're like coding along, you install this and you're coding along, you won't see very much happening. You're going to be thinking, what's going on? So you need to actually go and create some modules. So in my case, I just created some custom modules and started assigning them to positions and just putting some text in there and then saving them and then seeing how they rendered on my Joomla instance. Because, you know, at the beginning, you just think, what's going on? I've installed it, but nothing seems to be working because you're used to seeing a template which is really ready-made and you're building it from scratch, so it won't be. So you need to just put them in the module position so that you can see, are they in the right place? How do they look? This sort of thing. So then I go to step 7. So what was step 7 now? 1 second. Step 7 was fake, so I'll move to step 8. So step 8 now is module chromes. So if I go to my module chromes, I'll resize this again for you guys. So as we were talking about a minute ago about my index PHP and my below hero section, and I was saying, oh, I've got 2 different column widths there. How do I handle that? So this is how we handle it. So you see that I've changed all of my HTML at this point. Before I had a div class pure G, which was the row, and then I had in the columns, right? And I had div class, and I had pure U, and then I had like 1 of 5 or something like that, right? So that's what I had before, but now I've removed it. I'm going to show you that I made a HTML folder. Let me just move that across. I made a HTML folder, and in there I put a file called modules.php. So here we see it. I'll just take you over to the side again. So this file helps you to do the parts. When a module is rendered, you can have stuff outside surrounding it. So that's basically what this does. So try not to think too much on it. You need to know that you can have multiple module styles in this particular file. So I've only got 1, but Joomla other templates would have 3 or 4. So if you want to see how that would work, go in like a Joomla file structure, for example, or GitHub, and then go and find like protostar or something and look at the mod in the HTML folder and modules.php, and you'll see all the examples of what they do. So here's what I've done. Call it function. Mod chrome, it's always mod chrome with a capital C, all one word, underscore, and then pure, and I've got capital CSS. That end part after the underscore, that's the name of your module chrome style. And then you have a variable module and variable params and attributes. So in this case, I'm saying if the module has content, then I'm going to do this stuff. If not, then don't worry, who cares? So I get the module parameters. So let me just show you what the module parameters is, in case you're not understanding what I'm doing. Let's do this one. So let me just shrink again. Should be okay. So I'm in my module here. So some of the module parameters I've got is my title and my content. But what I'm really talking about is in this advanced part. So in the advanced part, I've got my layout, and I've got my module class suffix, and I've got my module tag. So my module could be rendered in a div or an article or something else, depending on what I pick from the drop-down. I've got the bootstrap size, which I haven't used, and I'm not using bootstrap, so ignore that for now. Header tag, is it H2, is it H3? How do I want to render that? Header can have a class as well, and then I can have my module style. So I go back to my code, and this is my module Chrome, so I'll show you why I just showed you that stuff, how it's relevant. So in this case, I'm assigning a variable header tag, and what I do is I get the parameters, and I say get the header tag, and then I say, you know, the default one should be H3 if nothing was selected. Hopefully it is, but if not, H3 will be chosen. I'm doing this HTML special chars, and all it's doing is saying if somebody put PHP in there, for example, it would strip it out. And then I'm making it UTF-8 and header class, same thing again. Default will be header, page header, or else it will be if there's a value in there, then it would overwrite it with the header class that's put in the back end of Joomla. Now I'm saying that if there's a title and it's set to show, then create it using Joomla parameters. So if the module is show title, so again, I'll go back to my module and show you what that means. You can see this part here. I can do show title and I can do hide or show. Obviously, we want to check that in real life. We don't want to just show it all the time if the user has told it not to, because they would find that confusing. So now I've said if it says show title, which would mean +1, and then I'm going to echo, and I'm building up the header here. So I've got an opening bracket header tag. So we saw that that could be H1, H2, H3, and then the class, which was the header class, which we saw was a text box. We could put anything in there. And then I'm going to close my my H1 or whatever it is. So if I just show you like what this is going to look like. So it's kind of going to look like that. So I'm building up H1 here. I'm putting the class in it there. Now I'm putting the module title in, which would be a title or whatever we type in. And then I'm closing the tag again. So I should delete that. Now I move on to the module class. So this is the module class suffix. So you can see again, I make sure there's no HTML or naughty stuff. Go to my params and I get the module class suffix. And what I'm saying is if there isn't one, give it a default one of 505 for my, this is my columns, obviously, or maybe not obviously. And then I'm getting finally I get to my HTML. I know that I'm using my columns with pure U, so I go pure U, and then I give it the module class added onto it, and then I get my module content coming up. So let me just show you what that looks like in real life. So on here, I've decided to add pure U MD, pure U2, and on the front end, that's what gives like these guys their width. That's why they're 4 columns instead of 1 column, for example. And it's all being controlled in the back end in my module just by setting the classes. So I'll go back to my module Chrome. So that's module Chrome's finished basically, except for one thing, which is step 9. Now I've added the module Chrome. Oh, how annoying. I guess and hope I get it right. So now I've added the module Chrome. I need to make sure that I add it into my index HTML. So in here, I've got my JDoc include modules, and this one is the feature module position. And I've got my style, and I have to use pure CSS. And if you remember, in modules, I called it function module Chrome pure CSS. So all it's doing is looking and saying, do I see one called pure CSS? In which case, yes, I will apply that to this module section. On to the next one. Okay, so I don't really like writing CSS anymore. I prefer to write SCSS. So I'm just going to show you guys how I overcome that problem without loads and loads of technical knowledge, which I probably don't possess anyway. Anyone who knows me will testify. So what I've done is I've cheated and used a plugin. So where's the one I've used? This one. It's called SCSS Compiler, and it's from a guy called Lomart. And I'll just show you that quickly. Where have I got it? Here it is. And all it does is compiles the CSS for you that you add to your SCSS folder, and it compiles it into a CSS. It pre-renders it, obviously, pre-composes it, pre-processes it. That's it. A message success, yes or no. If you say yes, when it compiles it, it will put a message on the front end. On a live site, I wouldn't recommend that. I would set that to no, which is none in French. However, in Joomla, you can set the language string to be JS and JS and JNO to translate, but this guy hasn't. But it doesn't matter. We understand we and no. So I set it on live to no, but when you're debugging it, you should set it to yes, so you can understand if there is a problem with your SCSS, you've set a variable that doesn't exist or something like that. It will tell you. The only way it will show it is if you've got the Joomla error message part of the template. And on my demo here, I haven't actually included that, I don't think. So if you don't have that, you won't see the message. So make sure you include that. By the end of this tutorial, you'll see how to do that. And on live site, set it to no. Forced compilation, I said yes. And the reason for that is because the way I set things up is in a lot of subfolders. And by saying yes, it will force it to search the subfolders and add all of that SCSS as well. Support for template, files in the default template folder will be compiled. We say yes. And we just make sure it's SCSS and CSS, which is kind of standard. So moving on from that, you just install it and set it up like that. That's all you really need to take from that particular step. Now I add my SCSS folder. Oh, in fact, you know I skipped a step earlier as well when I added the HTML. So I'll show you that as well now. So I'm adding my CSS folder. I will just talk you through this very, very quickly, but I'm not going to go into detail. In my CSS folders, I set them up in this particular way of doing things. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called 7:1, SCSS 7:1. I don't know, we call it configuration or something. And all I do is I've got my custom CSS and I import the index file from each folder. So I go to like components and get the index folder. And then within the components index folder, I import all of the files in that folder. So it just makes it a bit neater. So I can style each part individually and separate things, and it makes it really easy to maintain and know where to find the code. I'm not going to go into loads of detail about it, but that's the way I do it. Google SCSS 7:1. And the other thing you need to know is that once you've added this folder, and this is what I forgot earlier, so I'll just close all of these files. I added a new folder, so I need to add it to my XML. So I need to add a folder called SCSS, or else Joomla won't know to install that folder. It'll see it, but it will just ignore it. And what I forgot earlier was to add this HTML folder as well. And I can't remember why, but I've added an images folder. So if you are uploading images with your template, then you need to do that as well. So that's SCSS covered. If you want to know more information about why I did things the way I did them, you can just ask me and I can give you some resources. It's way too big to cover here. Step 11. So let me just check what I'm on to. Step 11. Okay, creating a menu. So creating a menu in your structure is going to be kind of difficult and annoying. So again, I cheated. I used DJ Mega Menu, which, as it happens, is also an accessible menu thing. You can see here, WCAG 2.0. So that's really, really handy. So I'll just show you that. So the first thing you need to understand is you come into the module, you need to go across to this Mega Menu options. And the option I chose is override from template. And that'll mean it takes away all of the CSS that they provided, gets rid of the whole lot, and just you can make your own, which makes it a lot easier to make a really lean template. The rest of it is kind of self-explanatory. You can have a look at it and fiddle with yourself. It adds some cool animations. It adds like the active class to the active menu item and stuff like that. So it takes care of quite a lot of things. You can make it a clickable menu or a hover menu. For accessibility, it should be clickable. As far as I know, Brian Tiemann will tell you more if you need more information on accessibility. He's the expert. But that's just a way to make it really quick. I'll just show you like how the menu looks. So you can see, you can't really see the hover, but oh, there you go. There it is. It's nothing special, but it is a bit of a pain to make that sort of thing manually. It would be better to make it manually, obviously, less overhead. But if you guys are starting out, I'd recommend just cheating a little bit. So on to the next step, which is 13. So now we had two files which we ignored. So we had the offline page, and I'll just show you where that comes from. So if I look into my system and global config, you can see the site offline button here. So if you set this to yes, then the site will go offline. And if you have an empty PHP file, Joomla will know what to do. So just to talk you quickly through this, we're using our namespacing, factory, and helper. This is actually wrong, so I need to change this, I think. But to take it down here, I forgot to maybe tell you this earlier. Once we started adding our custom CSS, we needed to add in another HTML helper, and we added a style sheet, and then we added our templates and our custom.css, not SCSS. If you don't add that, that's basically what the plugin uses. So you shouldn't really be putting any CSS in that, but the SCSS will compile down on the fly to that folder, to that file, and be rendered. So you need to add that with your HTML helper. What was I talking about? Offline. So offline file doesn't really need a lot. You need to, I've added an offline message. So to understand, oh, that's wrong as well. What you need to do is you need to add in the language namespacing. I have done it somewhere, so I'll show it you in a minute. But once you do that, it will render this. You don't need JText either. You can just have text because we're using the Joomla 4-way. And then this is just, it's always in capitals, and it's a Joomla language string. I'll show you the languages. I've got an eye on the time. I know I'm running out, but I'm nearly there. As you can see, this is the capitals language, and that's called the, God, what is it called? Constant, I think. And then this bit is the actual bit that will be rendered. So this will be, the reason we do this, right, is because I've got it in ENGB. If I had more languages, I could put them all there, and they would all have the same constant, and they would have obviously their own language for the other part. So that's how I make my template multilingual. But all you need to know is, because it's offline, look, this bit you may as well copy and paste. There's really nothing else you're going to do on this. You need your username and your password to sign in, so that if you want to, if you're working on the site, you can still see it, but nobody else can. I've seen some cool stuff done with offline, like countdown timers and stuff like that. So you could have an experiment with that. I will show you how to do the language strings in a minute. I'll go onto the error page first. So, well, my error page, does it come there? Yeah, so have I done it here? No, I'll show you that in a minute then. Error page, one thing which is, I've done a lot of JText here, so I'd have to fix them. It should just be text for the Joomla 4-way. If you're doing Joomla 3, it's fine, it'll install. One thing that is a problem with this page is the modules don't load in the same way for the error page. So you can see that I've had to do this load renderer modules, and I've told it to render this specific module, which is navigation, and then I've added the style using an array. Whereas previously, if I look at the index and show you, I just did this JDoc include. That doesn't work on the error PHP. I'm not really sure why. I need to investigate that, but it doesn't. So just trust me and do it this way. Other than that, I've got some, these are Joomla strings which already exist. So just saying there's an out of bookmark, not favorite, or mistyped address, and all common 404 error messages. You can add your own if you prefer. And then, yeah, guys, you can just kind of copy this stuff. It tells you about the errors and stuff like that. And then you can add your own modules around it. And because it's an error page, you may not want a lot. And especially for the offline page, you really don't want to render your navigation and stuff, because it's an offline site, right? So it's pointless. So that is kind of the end. But if I go to finals, I'll just show you what the stuff I just missed out, because I think... Oh, here we go. I will go with, I'll guess at left. So, oh no, how annoying. All right, here's how you do the language part. You have to include the Joomla namespacing for the language text, and also this is how you do URI now with the namespacing. And then instead of JText, you just do text. So it's not on that file, but I have it in this file probably. Yeah, so this bit is text instead of JText. And I think I just about managed to get there in time. Let me check if there's anything I missed. So this is why I went to all this effort, because I got a lot faster website. So without any optimization, really, I've got 98 performance in Google Lighthouse for the desktop and 75 for the mobile. I know that I can optimize a few of the images, and I'm not using jQuery on this site really, so I could remove jQuery, which is slowing the site down a fair bit, and this would probably get 100 on mobile, I think. I'm not there yet, but I reckon I will be. A couple of things I might have forgotten. Oh yeah, so one thing you will encounter is modules are a bit annoying, I think. Other people will argue with me. They add in the class here. I don't know, actually, let me make it bigger. So your module class suffix, right? And you've added in your class. It adds it here, and it adds it again within the module. And there's no way of editing it. That's part of the module content. It's not part of the module Chrome. So this part is part of the module Chrome. You could get rid of that if you wanted to. But I'm using my row before it, and then I'm using my columns. And that, to me, is perfect. I don't really need it to happen again. In this case, the solution for me was I just made every div below module content, I just made the other div 100% to stop it from shrinking, or else that would be like, you know, quarter of what it's supposed to be. What are the other things I should mention? Oh, sometimes you need to add a second template. So you might say why. So for example, on forms, you might have quite a lot of CSS, and maybe JavaScript as well. And you don't necessarily need to load that on every single page, only in the page with the form. So I would create a second template for that purpose. And I'll just show you quickly how to handle that. And the reason I'm showing you this is because when you start making your SCSS, you suddenly realize that, oh, hold on a minute, I've got to replicate it all. And then you make a change on the original template and you think, oh shit, I've got to do that everywhere. Oops, didn't mean to swear. So you're going to have to do that on every single template. But the way to avoid that is to do this at import, and you just go back and you just make sure that you go back to the CSS in your main template. So you go down a couple of levels, then back up to the main template and CSS, you take it from there. And then what you do is if you need to add some more on, you just add them in and you just add them on the bottom here. And that way you only need to update the SCSS in one place. We just think if there's anything else. Oh yeah, don't forget to come to Joomla London. You'll see me there most months. So on every third Tuesday of every month. Don't forget to discuss it in GitHub. If you want help with this, that's the best place to get the help. Hopefully you guys can help each other as well. Don't forget, I'm a super cool influencer. You can follow me on Instagram at Instagram. And don't forget, I like talking to people. So if you want any help, just get in touch. I'm happy to help. I think that's that.
Hey, thank you, Eoin. Thank you for your talk.
No problem. It's a bit.
It's a lot of stuff to take in. So for people who don't know the context.
I know. And I had to be kind of quick to get it all in, and it's just as bad for me because it's silent, so I don't know how it's going.
Yeah, no, don't worry. The thing is, the people, you can get the code on GitHub, so you can follow every step along again, and be at your own pace.
Yes, exactly. And if you go to GitHub and you go to the branch which is called Finals, that is the most up-to-date code, and you will be able to find like it's all correct there. I know for sure. With some of the steps.
Can you put the link again in the chat so that people have it?
Yeah, I'll put the link to the actual branch which has got the finals in it.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Because the chat are going to be recorded also, so we can go back to them and get all the links and stuff that we can then share with people.
Okay, cool. Were there any questions?
Yes, I just saw it just popped up. Hold on 1 second. Okay, is it compatible with Joomla 4?
Yes, the version I've got is compatible with Joomla 4, but I have not tested it. So if there are any mistakes, you might have to fix them, and you should test it fully before you go on any production sites.
Yeah, I didn't.
But I installed it and it worked, but I didn't set up all the modules, so I didn't test it very well.
Mm-hmm. I haven't experienced with Joomla 4 templates yet, so I'm not sure. I mean, it
You can
looks
trust me. I looked at Cassiopeia, and it was
Yeah.
far more complicated than my template. So
One-
there may be some things that I've missed or not understood. I haven't done any of you can do preloading in Cassiopeia and Cassiopeia, whatever it's called. I haven't done any preloading. I haven't done the web assets. So there's a lot more things you can do, but I would never have fitted it all into this talk. So
Oh yeah, yeah. An hour is short.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Owen, and then everybody. Thank you for coming in, and we'll see you in the networking areas or at expo halls, and in the next talk for sure.
Perfect. Thank you all for coming, guys. Really appreciate you being here.